I mean, that's a disaster. I mean, Tom Aspinall still can't see. He's got a fucked up right eyeball still.
It's really bad, right?
The reality is he might not ever fight again. Like, who knows? Like, if he has surgery on his eye and it doesn't go well and he can't see out of the eye, apparently he's still fucked up in his right eye. There's some tendon damage or something. And, you know, eyes are so tricky, you never know. Unless you're a fucking complete psychopath like Michael Bisping, who fought 11 fights in the UFC blind in one eye, which is so crazy.
She just exposed the biggest lie in the UFC heavyweight division. And what I'm about to break down for you is going to completely change how you see these fights. Because while everyone's arguing about who's the best heavyweight, the real story is how delusion and fantasy thinking are absolutely destroying careers at the highest level of the sport. We're talking about fighters stepping into that octagon with their heads filled with media hype and false confidence, only to get brutally reality checked by opponents who live and breathe the cold, hard truth of combat. This isn't just about wins and losses anymore. This is about a systematic breakdown of what it actually takes to survive in the most unforgiving division in all of mixed martial arts. Here's where it gets absolutely wild. When fighters buy into what I call the Texas fantasy, that soft, delusional thinking that makes you believe your own hype, they're already losing before they even step foot in that cage. You cannot walk into the UFC, the biggest stage in combat sports, carrying even a single ounce of naive optimism. The octagon doesn't care about your feelings, your hometown crowd, or how many followers you have on social media. It only cares about one thing. Can you deliver when the lights are brightest and the pressure is crushing? And here's what nobody wants to admit. The difference between genuine championship-level fight IQ and pretender mentality isn't just about skill. It's about your relationship with reality itself. When your entire camp is built on false promises and distractions, when you're more focused on Instagram posts than perfecting your craft, you're setting yourself up for a career-altering beatdown that will haunt you forever. But wait, it gets worse, because we're not just talking about mental preparation here. We're seeing fighters at the absolute pinnacle of their sport either losing complete control of their bodies during fights or worse, deliberately using dirty tactics as weapons. Take eye pokes, for example. Everyone wants to call them accidents, but let me tell you something. At this level, there are no accidents. These are professional athletes who train for months to control every millimeter of their movement. So when someone lands an eye poke from what feels like impossible range, that's not bad luck. That's a skill. A calculated, dangerous skill that completely destroys the integrity of the fight. And the psychological damage, that's just as devastating as the physical injury. When opponents start expecting dirty tactics, they can't fight their natural game. Their entire strategy gets compromised before the first punch is thrown. Now listen to this part, because it's about to get even crazier. The mental warfare aspect of these eye pokes goes way deeper than anyone realizes. Take Tom Aspinall's situation. Do you honestly think his belief that the foul was intentional doesn't eat away at him? That psychological wound is every bit as real and debilitating as the physical damage to his vision. But here's the kicker. The UFC machine doesn't pause for anyone's feelings or unfortunate circumstances. They don't care how an injury happened or whether it was intentional. Their only concern is simple. Can you perform when they need you to? That championship belt demands constant activity, and if you can't answer the call, they'll create an interim title fight without hesitation. Your reign, everything you've worked for, is on borrowed time the moment doubt or inaction creeps into the picture. And get this, the real problem isn't just individual fighters making bad decisions. It's the entire system failing to get the best fighters actually fighting each other. You hear the whispers, the frustration from real fans asking why the UFC can't consistently deliver the matchups we actually want to see. It's not about scheduling conflicts, guys. It's about raw, soul-crushing championship pressure making even the toughest fighters strategically avoid their worst stylistic matchups. When someone like Jon Jones is so utterly dominant that his presence alone dictates the entire landscape of a division, other top contenders start playing psychological games. They're terrified of risking their perfect records against a generational talent, so they take easier fights and hope someone else deals with the nightmare matchup first. Here's where everything falls apart completely. When the best fighters consistently avoid fighting each other, the entire title picture becomes a goddamn farce. Rankings become meaningless, momentum gets choked off before it can build, and the fans who actually pay for these pay-per-views get screwed over. We're not watching athletic competition at its highest level anymore. We're watching an expensive staring contest where everyone's too scared to pull the trigger. And the heavyweight division. Man, it's not just struggling right now, it's actively bleeding out. You can feel the life draining from it if you're a real fan. The current rankings are basically a smokescreen designed to hide a much deeper crisis of championship-level talent refusing to face each other when it matters most. Hold up, because what I'm about to tell you makes this situation even more insane. We're not seeing the kind of evolving fight IQ and strategic brilliance you'd expect from supposed apex predators at the top of the heavyweight food chain. Instead, everything feels static, predictable, and frankly boring as hell. And the consequences of this stagnation are hitting the UFC's biggest stars right where it hurts most, their marketability and their legacy. This isn't just about who happens to be ranked number one. It's about a systematic failure to generate genuine high-stakes narratives that capture fans' imagination. When the biggest, baddest men on the planet can't consistently deliver the visceral spectacle that drives massive pay-per-view buys, what does that say about the entire sport? But that's not even the worst part. You want to know what really grinds my gears? Watching professional fighters gas out halfway through fights, looking completely lost like they've forgotten how to fight. That's not just a bad night at the office. That's a fundamental breakdown of their entire camp, a failure of fight IQ when the bright lights are shining directly on them. What you're witnessing is the brutal consequence of an unforgiving weight cut meeting the reality of championship pressure. And Dana White absolutely despises this stuff, because it makes the entire product look weak and uninspiring. These fights are supposed to be statements, declarations of dominance. When you deliver a lackluster performance, you're telling the world exactly how little you respect this sport and the fans who support it. Now, some of you might be thinking that being good is enough to compete at this level. Please, my friend, that's a dangerous myth that gets talented fighters destroyed. Just look at what happened to Cortez Acosta. Sure, he's got skills, but Pavlovich exposed that massive gap in class like it was nothing. Then Tom Aspinall took his championship-level fight IQ and surgically dismantled Pavlovich in mere seconds. That's not a slight skill difference we're talking about. That's a monumental chasm that separates the real contenders from the pretenders. Every training camp for these top-tier warriors is a war unto itself, because they know that one slip, one moment of vulnerability, and their entire career trajectory can flatline permanently. Here's the thing though, you can't just write off fighters after one bad performance, especially when that loss comes against elite competition. Take Cyril Gane, for example. People want to dismiss him as zero gain after his loss to John Jones, but that's completely ignoring the context. This is the man who pushed Francis Ngannou to the absolute limit and nearly finished him with a leg lock attempt. That wasn't desperation. That was championship-level pressure forcing a calculated gamble against one of the most terrifying heavyweights in history. Losing to potentially the greatest fighter of all time doesn't erase everything you've accomplished. It just shows you the level you need to reach to truly be considered among the elite. And another thing that drives me crazy is this talk about giving prospects like Gable Steveson easy fights to ease him into the UFC. Are you kidding me? Do you honestly believe any man in the top 15 of the heavyweight division is an easy fight? Championship pressure doesn't magically appear after a few soft touches against opponents who aren't equipped to test your limits. That kind of naive thinking is exactly what gets promising prospects utterly demolished before their careers even begin. It's not about giving them time to acclimate. It's about whether they possess that primal fight instinct to survive the crucible of the octagon, or if they'll become another cautionary tale. So there you have it. The heavyweight division is bleeding talent, fighters are avoiding each other, and delusion is destroying more careers than actual knockouts. This isn't just about individual performances anymore, it's about a systematic failure to deliver the championship-level competition that fans deserve. The octagon is an unforgiving mirror that exposes who's truly prepared and who's just living in a fantasy. Being good enough isn't good enough when you're facing killers who have dedicated their entire lives to perfecting the art of violence. You either possess that warrior instinct to thrive under the brightest lights, or you become a forgotten stepping stone for someone who does. So here's my question for you. Are we watching the death of heavyweight competition, or is this just the growing pains before something incredible emerges? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, smash that like button if this breakdown opened your eyes, and subscribe because the heavyweight division is about to get a whole lot more interesting. I'll see you in the next one. But before you click away, let me tell you about something that's been eating at me for weeks. I've been studying fight footage until my eyes bleed, And I've discovered a pattern that nobody in the MMA media wants to acknowledge. The heavyweight division isn't just stagnating, it's being systematically manipulated by fighters who understand the business side better than the fighting side. And what I mean by that is absolutely going to blow your mind. These guys have figured out that in today's UFC landscape, your social media presence and ability to sell fights matters more than your actual fighting ability. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a heavyweight get a title shot purely based on merit? I'm talking about grinding through the rankings, beating everyone put in front of them, and earning their spot through pure dominance. It doesn't happen anymore because the game has fundamentally changed. Now it's about who can generate the most buzz, who can cut the best promos, and who can create controversy that drives engagement metrics through the roof. And here's where this gets absolutely disgusting. We're watching legitimate killers, guys who could probably end most people's lives with their bare hands, turn into social media influencers. They're spending more time crafting the perfect Instagram post than they are perfecting their ground game. More time thinking about their next podcast appearance than drilling takedown defense. And the UFC rewards this behavior because controversy sells pay-per-views, even when the actual fights are absolute garbage that leave fans feeling robbed of their hard-earned money. But wait, it gets even more twisted than that. The psychological warfare between these heavyweights has moved completely outside the octagon. They're trying to break each other mentally through Twitter beef and press conference antics instead of proving their dominance where it actually matters. And you know what the most insidious part is? It's working. Fighters are getting so caught up in the narrative battles that they're forgetting how to actually fight when the cage door closes behind them. Take a look at how these guys handle adversity during fights now compared to the old-school heavyweights. Back in the day, when a fighter got hurt, when they tasted their own blood, it activated something primal inside them. That's when you'd see their true character emerge. Now, the moment things get uncomfortable, the moment their game plan falls apart, they start looking for excuses instead of solutions. They're mentally checking out while their opponent is trying to separate their consciousness from their body. And don't even get me started on the coaching situation. These camps have become echo chambers where nobody wants to deliver the brutal truth that might hurt someone's feelings. Your corner is supposed to be the voice of cold, hard reality when you're getting your ass kicked. They should be screaming instructions that snap you back into focus, not whispering sweet encouragements that keep you trapped in whatever delusion got you in trouble in the first place. When I see corners telling their fighter they're winning a fight they're clearly losing, that's not support. That's sabotage disguised as loyalty. Here's something that's going to make you question everything you think you know about heavyweight rankings. The matchmaking isn't based on who deserves the next shot anymore. It's based on complex business calculations that factor in injury histories, contract negotiations, pay-per-view drawing power, and international market appeal. So when you see a fighter get passed over for a title shot despite being clearly the most deserving candidate, understand that you're witnessing the transformation of sport into entertainment product. And the fighters know this, which creates this toxic environment where everyone's gaming the system instead of just being the best fighter they can possibly be. But here's what really keeps me up at night thinking about this division. The heavyweight belt used to represent something pure and terrifying. When someone called themselves the heavyweight champion of the world, that meant they could beat any man on the planet in a fight. Now it feels like a marketing tool, a prop in whatever storyline the UFC wants to push for their next big event. And the fighters competing for it. Half of them seem more interested in setting up their post-fighting careers than they are in actually defending their position at the top of the most dangerous division in combat sports. Training footage we see on social media tells a story that should terrify every real fight fan. These guys are doing photo shoots in the gym instead of grinding through the kind of soul-crushing preparation that championship fights demand. They're worried about their brand, their image, their marketability, while their opponents are in some basement gym somewhere getting their hands wrapped and their minds sharpened for war. Guess who's going to be ready when the lights go down, and it's time to find out who the real killer is. And speaking of training, let me expose something about these heavyweight camps that's going to change how you watch every fight from now on. Most of these guys aren't getting the kind of honest sparring that prepares them for championship-level violence. Their training partners are either too scared to really test them, or they're being protected by coaches who think keeping their fighters' confidence high is more important than exposing their weaknesses before it's too late to fix them. So they walk into the biggest fights of their lives, having never experienced the kind of pressure and chaos they're about to face. This creates a domino effect that's absolutely destroying the quality of heavyweight fights. When you haven't been properly tested in training, when you haven't had your game plan completely shredded by someone trying to take your head off, you freeze up the moment something unexpected happens in a real fight. And at heavyweight, freezing up for even a split second can mean the difference between victory and waking up wondering what truck hit you. The margin for error is so thin that any hesitation, any moment of uncertainty, gets punished with extreme prejudice. Now let me tell you about something that's going to make you sick to your stomach. The amount of politics involved in heavyweight matchmaking has reached levels that would make professional wrestling blush. Fighters are literally avoiding fights that make sense for the fans and for their careers because their management teams are playing chess games with the UFC brass. They're holding out for better financial deals, better positioning, better timing, while the division stagnates and loses momentum that might never come back. And the worst part? The UFC enables this behavior because they're more concerned with protecting their investments than they are with delivering the fights that fans actually want to see. When a fighter becomes valuable enough, they get treated with kid gloves instead of being forced to prove they deserve their position. This creates a two-tiered system where the established names get favorable matchmaking, while the hungry contenders have to fight each other in elimination matches that often end careers before they really begin. But here's where this whole situation becomes truly insane. The fans can sense the artificiality of it all. They know when they're being sold a manufactured narrative instead of witnessing genuine competition between the best heavyweights on the planet. And their response is starting to hurt the sport in ways that might be irreversible. Pay-per-view numbers are declining, social media engagement is dropping, and the casual fans who drive the biggest revenue numbers are losing interest because they can't trust that what they're watching represents the highest level of competition. The heavyweight division is supposed to be the crown jewel of mixed martial arts. These are the biggest, strongest, most dangerous human beings choosing to step into a cage and find out who's the alpha predator. But instead of delivering that primal spectacle, we're getting watered-down performances from fighters who are more concerned with preserving their ranking than they are with proving their dominance. And every mediocre performance, every disappointing fight, every time a heavyweight phones it in when the world is watching, it damages the credibility of the entire sport in ways that take years to repair.